Okay, welcome. Good evening, everybody. Thank you so much for joining me for the University of Northampton Doctor of Business Administration webinar. My name is Professor Tim Campbell, and I'm a visiting Professor of International Management at the University. And it gives me great pleasure to take you through the program. What I'll do is I'm just going to begin with the presentation just for about 15 minutes. Just highlighting really the key points about the program itself, and then after that 15 minutes I'll take any questions that you've got. So let's get on with it then. Before I get on to the DBA program, what I'd like to do is just begin with something about Northampton and the University of Northampton. Now, on my map of the UK that you see here, I've got a big arrow that's pointed to Northampton. Some of you may have gotten there at some stage, probably not though for most of you, but I can tell you it's about 100 kilometres north of London, about an hour by train north of London. And Northampton's a very old, historic British town. There's been settlements there for about 5,000 years. And it appears all throughout British history. So a very old historic town. And at the moment, on the very outskirts, or just on the side of the town, you'll find the University of Northampton. Now, I say you'll find it there at the moment because they have been, for the last few years now, been building a brand new $500 million campus right in the middle of Northampton. And that's going to open in September 2018. So it's September of this year. So it's a massive investment by the university, but just shows the sort of investment that the university is putting into itself. And when you graduate, of course, you'll be graduating from that new university, which will be very nice. But as I say, some highlights of the university. And I've just picked a few here in my bubbles. Firstly, it's been nominated the Times Higher Education Outstanding Business School of the Year recently. When you're nominated for the Times Higher Education Outstanding Business School, they nominate 6 business schools, and bear in mind there's more than 120 of them in the UK. And they actually were nominated 3 years in a row recently. It's also been England's #1 university for employability. That's a measure of how many graduates either go into further study or get jobs. And that percentage has been quite recently the #1 of all universities. And I think that's because the University of Northampton is a very practically or business-focused university. And I think that makes its graduates attractive in the marketplace. My next bubble says it's also been recently the #1 university in the UK for value-added education. That's a measure of teaching quality. And you'll certainly find when I talk about the DBA program after this slide that the teaching is extremely good on these workshops and on the whole program. Importantly, it's been awarded its Royal Charter to be called, or award degrees, to be called a British university, and to award degrees, you must have your Royal Charter. And the University of Northampton, of course, does. And the last thing I thought I'd mention is that it's globally recognized. What I mean by that is the university has been running its programs all over the world for quite a number of years now, all the way from Northampton, London, right to the other side of the world to New Zealand, and all sorts of parts in between. And the good thing about that is that the brand becomes known globally. You get alumni globally as well. So I think it's a very good thing. But let's get on and talk about this DBA program. That's the university, that's Northampton. What about this Doctorate of Administration that they offer? Now, I think a good starting point for this is, and surprisingly, I think when I talk to people, a lot of people, even when they're applying for the program, are a little bit confused exactly what a doctorate is, or especially what's the difference between a PhD and a DBA. So I thought I'd just begin with that. Firstly, what is a doctorate? That's not actually the easiest question to answer because it actually differs, the meaning of it, over time in different countries. Even different universities can sometimes have different interpretations of it. But generally, a doctorate first emerged when modern universities first emerged hundreds of years ago. And it was awarded to people who wanted to teach in a university. Now, over these hundreds of years, they've generally separated into two different types of doctorates. One is called professional doctorates, and this is, if you like, a license to teach like it was in the university, but now it's sort of changed into a license to practice. So the sorts of people who have professional doctorates, they're professional people. They're not engaged in research on a day-to-day basis. They're engaged in a profession, but they've studied to the highest level possible, to the doctorate level. And the one you're probably most familiar with would be a medical doctor, an MD, Doctor of Medicine. But there's also doctorates for engineers, there's doctorates for pharmacy people, doctorates for dentists, even education people. They have an EdD, Doctorate of Education, and there's many more. So these types of doctorates are for people who are in professions, primarily engaged in professions. So that's why they're called professional doctorates. The other type of doctorate that emerged is for people who are primarily engaged with research, and we call those research doctorates. And the most common one you'll come across is a PhD. So they're actually very similar in terms of they're academically equivalent. They both are research-based degrees. They both confer upon the bearer of the title doctor, but you see they just have a different focus, don't they? One's more practical, one's more research-oriented. And just to emphasize that, I know there's a lot of words on this slide, but I'm going to read it out because it's from allbusinessschools.com, and I just think it quite nicely just makes it quite clear what the differences and similarities between the programs. So on this, on the top here, we've got PhD programs in business focus intensively on preparing candidates to conduct highly specialized scholarly research. They focus on the development of new theory in management, economics, and related fields. Most PhD and business administration graduates lead to careers as university researchers and professors or as senior researchers in business and government. Okay, so that's the research-based PhD. The professional doctorate, the Doctorate of Business Administration for business people, DBA programs focus on the application of theory rather than on the development of new theory. While also intended to prepare graduates for academic careers, if they so choose, the Doctorate of Business Administration, by virtue of its focus on application of theory, has a more practical application of managerial settings than a PhD. So I quite like those quotes because I think it makes the difference quite clear of what a DBA is and what a PhD is and how they differ. Okay. So what sort of things do DBA students study? So here's just a list of some of our local students and the types of topics that they're studying. There's one person who's finished now, actually, but was looking at transformational leadership in UAE healthcare. Another was applying systems thinking in one of the large construction firms over here. Another topic, this guy was looking at the effectiveness of banking, anti-money laundering practices, and that was a Saudi student. Another Saudi student was looking at a marketing topic, looking at price elasticity and consumer behavior, looked at a case study of the firm where he worked. There's been an analysis of talent management in a KSA firm. This is an Omani student, looked at organizational culture in private and public sector firms. And another one's IT's role in business transformation. This was an oil and gas sector employee. So I just picked on these ones because you see they're all different parts of business and management. There's marketing, there's finance, there's organizational behavior with the leadership, etc. But you see they all have quite a practical application to them, don't they? All right, let's look at the program. How do you do your DBA? The first 2 years are what we call taught or facilitated modules. Now there's 6 modules, although there's 7 workshops because one of the modules has 2 workshops reflecting on business practice. But these 2 years are done, and you'll probably be familiar with this type of, well, you will be familiar with this type of delivery. It's doing a workshop, then being set assignments and being helped by your tutors, okay? And this will give you the whole foundation of everything you need to know to then move on to the second 2 years of the program, which is your thesis, the professional research project. So it's a DBA program that's split into 2 years facilitated, 2 years doing your thesis, where you'll be supported by supervisors. And I'll talk about that later. So that's the program itself. The types of assessment that you have in these modules, there are all sorts of things. There's essays, there's presentations, there's portfolios, research report, reflective report. You do a proper research proposal. You do one on the application process, a very simple one, but once you actually get on the program, you'll do a far more in-depth one. And practice viva voce, and right at the end, your research thesis will be an actual viva voce, where you will go to the University of Northampton and you will defend your thesis in front of a panel, which is usually either 2, sometimes 3 people. The support you get on the program, there's a lady called Dr. Angela Rushton, who at the interview stage you will meet. She's the International DBA Program Leader. There's a local DBA Program Leader, and that's the role that I help, because I'm based here in the UAE, so I help for local types of issues, if you like. There's the module tutors. All of these fly in from the University of Northampton, and there's an expert for each one. When you get to the thesis stage, there's a director of study who oversees the whole process, and then you'll have 2 supervisors. One will be based at the University of Northampton, one will be based here more locally in the region. And the reason for that is that the person who's based more locally will understand the context of your research better than the person in the UK will, who may or may not have even been to the region. So I think it adds a lot to that supervisory team. There's also Northampton and local administration. There's something we call NILE, which is the Northampton Integrated Learning Environment. It's a VLE, a virtual learning environment. And I'm sure you've had this probably in your studies before. Basically, there's a website for every module you do and for the program. It's where we post slides and videos and anything we think's relevant. And the university also has a very extensive online library. Everything you need, you'll access through the electronic library. The days of going to a library and taking out a book, which it was like in my day, I'm afraid that they've gone. These days, it's all electronic, and we access things electronically. Entry requirements: you must hold a master's degree in a business-related subject completed within the last 10 years, although they will, if it's longer than 10 years, it will still be looked at as long as you can point to some more recent training courses and things that you've done. You must have a minimum of 5 years work experience, at least some of which should be at a senior level. And you must be employed in a leadership or management role capable of supporting the achievement of the program learning outcomes. What that means is most of the facilitated modules will require you to be in a position where you'll be able to understand the materials, and the assignments may well be linked to your own position and role as well. So you need to be in a role capable of supporting that. Okay, this is important. The application requirements. What we need is, now the easy stuff is the CV and the personal statement. On the personal statement, make it clear why you're wanting to study this, why you want to do a DBA, how it's going to help you in the future, how it's going to help you your professional life, etc. These types of things. 2 references and your degree certificates and transcripts, and evidence of English language ability where it's not your first if it's not your first language. But generally, if you've studied, if your master's is in English, you'll be fine. Or if you've studied or you have a lot of English experience, you should be fine. But the bottom 2, I think a lot of people overlook, and it's very important not to. The first one is you must have a successful interview. So once your application documents are all together, we'll go to Northampton. Dr. Angela will set up an interview panel, which will be her, and then somebody who's a specialist in whatever topic it is you're proposing to do. And they're going to ask you all about these application documents. For example, they'll ask about your work experience and things like this, but mostly they'll ask you about your research proposal. And these interviews can go on for 30 or 40 minutes. So you really need to think and understand your research proposal. Which brings me on to the proposal. This isn't something you write in half an hour. This is something you really need to put some thought into. I'm going to just give you a few tips on the next few slides on that. And your academic consultant at Stafford will also be able to give you some further information exactly what we're looking for here. But don't forget those two things. They're important if you want to be accepted onto the program. Now, we don't want to accept people onto this program who aren't going to, basically everyone who is accepted on the program, we want to succeed. And it's very important right from the application stage to demonstrate that you can succeed on this program. As I said, just a few other tips on the research proposal. Why is it required? Well, three main reasons. Firstly, is the applicant capable of studying at doctoral level? It's not an easy thing, and I'm not going to tell you that it is. It's a big step up from a master's level. Getting to the end of it is a massive achievement. But I won't, being completely honest, it's not easy, and I don't think you'd expect it to be. So the applicant must be capable of studying at doctoral level. The other thing they'll look for, does the proposed research fit with the nature of a DBA? Remember how I said a DBA must have some practical application, something that will actually make a difference in a workplace or in an organization, or an industry perhaps even. But it must have that practical application, not just developing a new theory. That would be more PhD stuff. And they also need to make sure that the university has an appropriate supervisor. Now, I put in brackets here that the university can supervise all major areas of management, all the usual things: marketing, strategy, OB, HRM, accounting and finance, economics, etc. But don't propose something that's very, very narrow, perhaps a very technical thing. So the topic should be sufficiently broad that it fits within one of those subject areas. Or, for example, sometimes we get students who might want to do a very specific research method that we don't have somebody at the university who does that research method. So all we're saying here, don't make it too specific and technical. Make sure it fits within one of those subject areas. What do they look for in a proposal? Can it make a practical contribution to business and management? Can the applicant reference using the Harvard system? If you don't know how, a very quick search on Google will show you how. Can you write a brief literature review and cite some authors in the field? Do you have a basic understanding of research methods? You know, at this stage, we're not looking for a fantastic thing. That's the sort of thing, once you're on the program, of course, you're going to learn all of this in an awful lot of depth. But we need to know that you're actually capable of doing that. So the proposal to begin with, make sure it shows these things. And I've said all business and management master's graduates should already have these skills. It's the sort of thing you would have done in your master's degree for most people. Right, I'm just about there. Almost done, finished my presentation. Program fees, I'm sure you've been told what they are, and I think are very reasonable for a Doctorate of Business Administration program. That is taught. Remember, it is not an online program. It is a taught DBA program. It's exactly the same as they do on campus. Exactly the same. Why should you do a DAB? It's a DBA even. It's an investment in your future, both in academic and professional fields. It's the highest qualification in business and management. Contribute to business and management practice. It would be expected that your thesis would be published. You'll have international and local supervision and support, and local workshops from leading international faculty. So some bullet points of why you should do a DBA. And I put here just a quote from myself: completion of the Northampton DBA will set you apart as an expert, able to lead and manage at the highest levels. You'll have made a unique contribution to your field and developed outstanding analytical, critical, creative, and reflective skills so needed in today's business world. There are very few people who study to doctoral level and complete at doctoral level. Completing the DBA will make you a part of that group and will very much set you out as a real expert in your field. And that's going to be great both personally and professionally. Right, I've done it. That's my presentation. Now's the important bit. Any questions that you have? Now, with the large group that I've got, the easiest way, on your right, you'll see a questions box. Oh, I've already got questions. hang on, I'll get to those. So please do type your questions in there, and I'll get to you one at a time. Right, let me start. I've got some already from Khaled. How does the work one does in the first 2 years flow into third and fourth year? Oh, that's very good. Generally, most people will refine their ideas in the first 2 years. The types of methods that they think they're going to use, how they're going to collect the data. You'll have far more literature about your topic. And then when they get to the thesis stage, basically the 2 years is the foundation. And then you get to the thesis stage and you do the field work. It's pulling it all together and digging deeper. So if you like, the first 2 years are your foundation, and then finishing off the building is the thesis. What is the completion rate of the program? Oh, I don't know, Carl. I'm going to be perfectly honest with that one. Here in the UAE, we want intake 5 here in the UAE. I'm not sure how many intakes there are on campus. I have to admit, I am not entirely sure about that one. I'll have to think about that. You have to email me, Kel. I'll have to ask the university. Might be the easiest one. I knew somebody had stumped me tonight. Can the university support topics like learning and development, coaching or training? Absolutely. Yep, they're very much a part of organizational behavior, part of the subjects that I'm interested in. Can you advise what the nature of assessments will entail? Yes, as I said, there's a whole range on the facilitated module. Some are essays, some are portfolios, some are presentations, a whole range of different things that they use. But during the workshops and during the period of the module, you'll be told exactly what you need to do and how exactly you need to do it. What is covered in the UAE workshops, and can I attend any workshops in the UAE? Yeah, in the UK, sorry. Yes, it's exactly, so as I put before, you've got your module. I put the titles of the modules, and that will tell you exactly what each module is all about. So it's taught exactly the same way in the UK. So yes, you could do a module in the UK. The only thing is you need to make sure the timetables match. So if you're thinking of doing that on the program, your tutors can advise. How is doing a DBA online, like with you, University of Northampton? Asayed, this is a question from Asayed. Remember, this is not an online program. It's a taught program. The tutors from the university are coming here for 3 days of contact, and then you're just supported online after that. But bear in mind, it's not an online program. Then doing a DBA on-site at the university. Consider this doing a DBA on-site at the university. It's exactly the same. If you were on campus in Northampton, you would study the DBA in exactly the same way. Concerning the interview at Northampton, we must attend personally or it's online. The interview, Louis, is by Skype or equivalent. Actually, no, they don't use Skype anymore. They've got a video conferencing system that they use now. But they must see you. So when you get an interview time, you must be at a computer, and then you get a link, and then much like we're doing now, this type of conferencing software. But they must see you to know that it's you, of course. Can I get any credits if I've completed a DBA program from any other university? Completed a DBA program? No. If you've completed a DBA program somewhere else, you've already got a DBA. So that would have cashed those credits in. But maybe you meant that you completed some modules of a DBA program. No. Most DBA programs don't accept credit transfers. And it's because DBA programs between universities are usually quite different. So it's not always easy to match the modules. So I'm afraid we don't really look at crediting modules that have been done elsewhere. Asma's asking, do you have project management supervisors? Definitely, there's plenty of them at the university. Will my degree state online distance learning? Nope, absolutely not. It's not online. Can I complete the program in less than 4 years? Well, the first 2 years are set because you must follow that workshop schedule. But it would be possible if you were really good, you could complete the thesis in less than 2 years. But I'm going to be quite honest in saying it's best to use the time you've got. As I say, it's a high level of study. It does take, it's not something that can be rushed. But if you did complete that thesis slightly earlier, it would be possible. Is the Northampton DBA recognised by the Ministry of Higher Education in the UAE? No, it's not, Mohammed. I believe they only recognise programs that are or universities that have campuses here. Will I be able to meet my supervisor here in the UAE? Your local one, you will. Your Northampton supervisor, you will connect with electronically. But certainly you will have a local supervisor as well. In the interview, as I said, you'll be asked mostly about your research proposal. You'll be asked about your work experience, a little bit about your academic background, but mostly about your research proposal. So be very prepared that you know it well. What is the duration of each module? If you have a look back on when I showed you the timetable, you'll see there's got a 3-day workshop, and then it's about 3 months in between them, something like that. But your academic consultant from Stafford will send you the timetable, I'm sure. Is the program approved by the KSA Ministry of Education? Khalid, I don't know that. Please do, and as I always say, because we get students from all over the place who do the program, always check accreditation with your local ministry or whoever else is responsible for it. It's very important because this type of thing is different and differs in every country. It differs over time. It differs, it's impossible for us to keep up with that in every country of the world. So it's very important for you as a student. Check that you're comfortable, that the program suits your requirements. The local supervisor in UAE is a faculty of the university or appointed from amongst alumni. Faculty, Karina, definitely. Concerning the research proposal for the final project, we have to define it from the beginning or later on. Good question. Most people, for example, when you apply, you give a very simple research proposal, as I've mentioned, and it might be let's say it's in leadership. Now, that proposal is likely to be very different to what you actually end up with at the end, because you'll look at the literature more, you'll look at methods more, you'll understand things more, and you'll find it'll change. In saying that, most people do stay within their topic area. So if the initial proposal is leadership, what they actually end up with is usually something within the leadership field, different to what they started with, but something. But it is possible for some students that they will change over the course of the DBA, and that's possible as well. But most students do tend to stick within their subject area. I already did PhD research methods. Can I transfer them? No, we don't accept credit transfers for doctorate level programs. As I mentioned, it's just because this program each module builds on itself, it's important to do the whole program. Dean is saying, are the face-to-face workshops compulsory? Yes, they are. Remember, this is a taught program. However, things happen. And your next part of your question, what if I miss some of the session? There might be illness, you might simply, for some reason, you might not be able to make a workshop. If that happens, try not to, but things in life happen. If it does, then you'll have the tutor's contact details, and they'll do a video call or a call, or even in some way they'll catch you up. Asma, what is the relationship between Stanford, I bet you mean Stafford, Asma, and the university? Stafford markets, recruits students on the program, collects the fees, does all the administration types of things in the region for the university. The reason for that is it'd be very difficult to market and recruit the program effectively from the campus in the UK. So that's why universities use companies like Stafford to do this. But you must be very clear, Stafford does not give any academic input. All of the academic input, the degree, everything is from the University of Northampton. Stafford's just there to help, as I say, marketing, student recruitment, etc. Wow, I've got a lot of questions today. This is good. What's my next one? I'm an engineer by profession. Oh, very good, Mahmoud. Well done. And I would like to write about housing market in the Middle East. Wow, that would be interesting. Is this something that would be accepted by the university to supervise? I'm sure it would, but make it clear what part of the housing market you're interested in. Is it the financial part of it? Is it the marketing part of it? Is it the, at the moment it's very broad. It could be strategy. It could fit into a number of topics. So I think that would be a very interesting thing to do, but just make it clear what in particular are you interested in researching about the housing market in the Middle East. That's the key thing. Just narrow it down into a particular subject area. Will we be required to go on campus for some period of the program? No, you're not. It's all done over here. The only thing you need to go to campus for is the viva voce, your final thesis examination. My proposal is the field of employee engagement. Do you have a specialist in the subject? Yeah, absolutely. Lots of OB people at the university. And an interesting subject. Dean is saying, can I have a list of the topics, other than what you've mentioned, that the university can supervise? As I said, we don't give a list of topics because there are academics at the university that can cover every topic. There are strategists, there are operations people, there's logistics people, accounting, finance, even Islamic finance, organizational behavior, all of the main business and management subjects can be supervised. So the idea you have, all I'm saying, as long as it's not too very narrow and technical thing, maybe it's a very specific quality system that you're interested in, then there may not be someone at the university that knows enough about that. But as long as your topic is in one of those areas, it's very likely that there'll be a supervisor for it. Does the program require me to show the application of my theory in an organization in the UAE or region? It must have a practical application, yes, but it doesn't necessarily have to be an organization in this region. We just find almost all of our students do because they're living and working in the region. It doesn't have to be, it could be somewhere else, as long as you have access to getting the data from that organization. Asma, is there an additional fee if I took 5 years or less for 3 years? The program fee is for 4 years, so please get it done on time. If you take an extra year, then you're going to be charged an extra year because, of course, you're going to still have to have your supervisors and everything else involved. So, key thing, get it done within the 4 years. After I completed the modules with local workshops, are there workshops to attend on campus? You don't have to, but if you wanted to join the on-campus DBA students for a module, you could, completely up to you. Are tutors available on Saturdays? That's the difficult one to answer. Some tutors, yes, some tutors, no. For your facilitated modules, generally, we would say within working days, Monday to Friday. And I really don't think there's any questions that are so important that need to be answered on the weekends. But in saying that, we do have plenty of tutors who do answer emails on the weekends. But usually we'd say working days. Louay, excited to start? Fantastic. I look forward to seeing you at the first workshop, Louay. Mohammed's asking, what about learning through an online environment from an efficiency standpoint? I'm going to say this again, Mohammed, it's not an online program. Nothing is done. I know we're doing this webinar synchronously online, but this isn't how the program's taught. You will be taught during the 3 days in those workshops. That's where all the teaching takes place. What happens after that is just supported online. So all the key things, it'll be face-to-face. And I'm a big believer in face-to-face delivery, actually seeing people. I think it makes a big difference. Harish is asking, will you be able to email me a copy of this presentation? No problem. Your academic consultant at Stafford will send the presentation to all of you. Does the degree ceremony happen at Northampton? Yes, it does. If you can't make it, they will send the degree to you. But I very much say go to the degree ceremony. If you've gone through a whole doctorate journey, then you want to be at that ceremony and it'll be a fantastic day. Are there any textbooks to purchase? No. At doctorate level, we don't use textbooks very much. It's almost all journal articles, things, and everything you need will be through the online library. So no textbooks to purchase. After obtaining the DBA, we can use the title before the name, title doctor before the name. Yes, you can. Absolutely. It's a doctoral degree, exactly the same as a PhD. If I took 3 years, is the fee less? Sorry, ESMA, it's not, I'm afraid. It's still the same fee. But if you did it in 3 years, I'd be very impressed. Do I have a set of service standards students can refer to? Yes. At the first workshop, they will go through, there's what's called rights and responsibilities of tutors as well as students. And that will go through how long you should expect a reply from your tutor. It will go through all of these things that I think you're talking about, Carla. So there are standards that are kept to. And you must remember at the doctorate level, it's far more, because you mentioned here the MBA. At the MBA level, there's a lot of people, it's more of, you know, it's trying to search for the right word. You know, there's a lot of people, so certain service standards aren't, you're not treated as individually as you are on a doctorate level course. I think that's what I'm trying to say. At doctorate level, it's far more one-to-one. You get to know your tutors very well. You get to know your supervisors very well. So you'll find that you get a far more personal sort of interaction anyway. So sort of set service standards about getting emails and things. You find it doesn't happen so much at doctoral level because it's so much more of a one-to-one thing. Mohammed, to further clarify my earlier question, I'd like to explore through my research how can the housing market be optimized from a strategy viewpoint. That would be fine. My suggestion would be to draft your research proposal with the idea, because if you're looking at it from a strategy viewpoint, get some ideas down onto your research proposal. And this is something I haven't mentioned by the way, but I'm sure your consultants at Stafford will. If you want me to comment on your research proposal before you submit it, that's absolutely fine. In fact, I usually insist that I look at them before they're submitted with the application forms. So I think, Mohammed, get some ideas down on a piece of paper on that research proposal form. Then I can have a look at it, and I'll be able to give you a better idea of what I think about it. Are there any other fees? No, there's not, coloured. It's all included. The only thing would be if you don't live in the UAE, is your flights and accommodation to get to the workshops. What will be my options if during the program I have to move out of the UAE or region? Yeah, I mean, hopefully you would carry on. Because there's only 7 workshops over 2 years, even if you move back to your home country, and you say it's Pakistan here, I said, hopefully you'd be able to come and still carry on coming to the workshops. That would be ideal. As I say, because they're so spread apart, it should still be possible. And then you go back to your home country and you can continue on with the online support from there. You know, I think I've done it. Wow, that was a lot of questions. Very good, though. I am impressed. So I'm going to say thank you very much, everyone. And I'm going to put you to my next slide so you can have see my email address. Oh, wait, not that slide. Here we are. Hopefully, there you go. You'll see my email address on there. There we go. Oh, quickly, I've just got 2 more. Just one about the following topic acceptable. Why do sales managers not apply tools learned in training? It could be. I need more information, coloured. As I say, think about it. Give me some more information. Email it to me, and I'll tell you what I think. And Harish is saying, if I miss your workshop in the UAE, the alternative locations, it runs in the UK as well. I think I've managed it. As I say, anything else you want to know, just give me an email directly. So, or a phone, of course, a phone call as well. Absolutely fine. Okay, thanks so much, everyone. Thanks for listening. I really hope you're going to enjoy the program. I really hope I'm going to see you all face to face at that first workshop. It really is a journey. I mean, it's always easy to put these things off. The best way, get started, get it done. And once you're finished, it's a fantastic achievement, let me tell you. So thanks for listening, everyone. Hope to see you soon. Any questions, let me know. Bye for now.